Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. I'm Kelsey Woodward, the Content Marketing Manager here at GiveSmart, part of the Community Brands family. And we are absolutely delighted today to have Megan Mungal, co-chair of New York's Hearts of Gold Associate Committee, joining us today, as well as Kara Dickerson, Director of Account Management here at GiveSmart. Hi.
Hi there.
Hi, Kara. Hi, Megan. And ladies, thank you for joining. So before we get started, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping bits. Everyone who is registered today, you'll all be getting a link to the recording when this is finished. And also additionally, we're going to be citing some resources throughout the presentation, which you can access in the handout section. And we anticipate going around 30 minutes today, and we have asked Kara and Megan if they can stay on for another 15 to answer questions. And so finally, if you feel so inclined, you can follow along with us today on Twitter at #GiveSmartPowerUp, because we're going to be doing some live tweeting. And so just to kick off, I want to start with a quick poll, so please weigh in. And I know that this says, so which best describes your fundraising campaigns? And so when we say campaigns, we really just mean any way that you're exercising fundraising. So either we run 3 or more campaigns and are successful, we run 3 or more campaigns, but we aren't as successful as we'd like. We run less than 3 campaigns and they're going well. We run less than 3 campaigns and we need some help, or we don't run campaigns at all. So please weigh in, and while you guys cast your vote, Megan, if you could just explain to us your role at Hearts of Gold.
Yeah, so I am the co-chair of the Associate Committee. So we work directly with the internal team at Hearts of Gold, which is 4 full-time employees. And Hearts of Gold, we operate just out of New York City specifically. We pair with homeless shelters within the boroughs, and we're only paired with about 4 homeless shelters right now, but we help the mothers and children in these homeless shelters get rehabilitated and out of the shelter system. So we provide job training, we provide materials for when they get into the shelter system, and then help them when they get out. So I'll be talking a little bit more about the different events we have to support that.
Great, thank you. So let's see those poll results. Okay, so it looks like the majority of people, so it's kind of a tie between the middles, but the majority of people are running 3 or more campaigns but aren't quite successful as they would like to be. So Kara, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of right on target with what we see kind of in the space already. So hopefully this webinar will give some good ideas. We can maybe get those 3 campaigns and give you a couple more ideas for the future of events to be able to run successfully.
Okay, cool. Oh, let's see. Don't know what happened there. So, okay, so why are we concerned with giving all year round? And we are because, so basically we want to stay important because giving all year round, right, it helps you keep your organization top of mind for donors. And we also know that donors want to give throughout the year. So you want to be able to engage with them and develop different campaigns that you can run throughout every season. And also the more campaigns that you're running means that you're reaching a variety of donor types. And so we're going to discuss as we go through today how you can tailor different campaigns to reach different donors. And here, as I just mentioned, we see, okay, they want to give multiple times throughout the year. So this graph shows that donors give 4 to 10 times per year to organizations that they support. And this is based off of one of our community brand studies, the Donor Experience Study. And additionally, donor preference between annual galas and a variety of events is split nearly 50-50. So the takeaway here is that tradition is important and relevant, but it shouldn't be the only thing we focus on. So it seems like the majority of you on this call today, are running more than 3 events, and that's great. So we're just going to run through some ideas. So Kara, if you want to kick us off with the winter.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kelsey. So we're based in Chicago, New York, Megan, Kelsey, and myself. So, the campaigns that you're going to see are tied to the seasons that we see here, but they're not necessarily tied to the month. So please keep that in mind. If we have our San Diego crew that gets the beautiful 72-degree weather all year round, these ideas can be floated through whichever months are appropriate for you. Also, this is just suggestions to kind of spark some ideas as well. And some of these might not be new to you. So just kind of keeping that in mind. One other just quick housekeeping that the chat is open now. So please share any questions or thoughts via that, and we'll try to answer those at the end. All right. So let's kick it off then with my favorite season, the holiday season, December. So December brings the biggest giving month of the year. However, there's also this perception that while giving is up, events and activities slow down. However, Megan, I know Hearts of Gold runs a few December events. Can you tell the group a little bit more about what you guys do?
Yeah, so for us, giving all year doesn't necessarily mean monetary donations. Our big focus in December is actually on our volunteers. So we host a Coats for Christmas drive for the moms and the kids in the shelter system. So that's really very volunteer centric. We also have a dinner for them as well, where Santa comes and visits. So while it is the biggest giving month in general, and we see about 31%, as you can see on the slide, comes through in December, for us, it really is the focus on holiday drives. It is that giving season, getting people to really help us. If it can be monetarily, that's wonderful, but if not, with their time, and then with anything else that they're able to give.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. So next month is January. January, the month of new beginnings, New Year's resolutions, and hopefully for you guys, new donors. So when you're thinking about January, thinking about celebration-centric events, community classes. So again, a lot of people are doing those New Year resolutions of trying something new. Thinking about your donors or experts in the field at your offices that may be able to host painting classes. Or something to really drive community involvement, not even necessarily monetarily, but getting those new donors into your event and into your campaigns early on help to kind of keep them, abreast to everything else you're doing for the rest of the year. So kind of getting those new donors in the door, maybe easing them in with an activity or a mission moment that you guys are doing is something that you can really think about for January. And then also with January, thinking about kicking off monthly giving. So again, encouraging small monetary gifts, keep those donors engaged all year round. So really kind of thinking about that piece is really something that I would really suggest starting out the new year.
Yeah, and kicking it off
Megan,
in the new year. Yeah, so as we move into February, the holiday season is over. It's in most places very cold outside. Maybe you're lucky and it is very warm, but still you can kind of focus on that pent up winter energy. So we just give a few suggestions, a cabin fever dance party, restaurant partnerships, that is a great time for people to go out to dinner, and that can be a way that they're giving. So with restaurants, if you have any relationships that you can leverage, you can encourage them to bring in business on slower days and they share the proceeds. February is also Mardi Gras, which can be a very fun theme for maybe a smaller event or maybe a signature event. Taking a look at this, you could also leverage Valentine's Day that we have in February. So some sort of show the love campaign. So if you want to focus specifically on a cause or a program that you have within your organization that you'd like to see people get more involved in, this might be a great time to really get people involved in that specific aspect.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And so now kind of as we move into the spring, so spring is big for animal shelters because that's when, all the new puppies and the kittens, so they might be having some more outdoor focused events like adoption parties, walking events, pop-ups at breweries, farmers market, other things like that. But Kara, if you could just kind of some more ideas for people who, the majority of nonprofits probably are not always going to be an animal shelter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's still ways to incorporate that spring into action theme. So this month is actually when a lot of signature events happen. So you can kind of utilize that and springing into action, utilizing that with your signature event as well. Some other things to kind of think about through this month is March Madness. That's always a big one, especially with any associate boards. Men and women's groups really love getting into the action of college basketball. Also, this is when spring break happens. So thinking about activities centered around things that, both adults and kids could maybe do around spring break. And then also thinking about ways to, thinking about merchandise sales. So, going with that spring break theme, maybe you want to do something to get people geared up. So maybe it's, selling koozies or T-shirts, fun things like that that can really involve the community without necessarily having to have an event centered around it.
Yeah, so one thing that we do in the spring for Hearts of Gold is we actually have our run walk for kids. And so this is an event where we have people register for the event. So it is that we are getting those donations and that fundraising through registration fees. But then it's also a chance for the moms and the kids in the shelter system to come out. And it is a big fundraising event for our back to school event, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But it's a great time because it's starting to get warm again. It's a fun outdoor event. There are different tournaments that you could do. You also think maybe this is a great time for luncheons in April, especially as the spring is starting to come. Tennis and softball tournaments, like I mentioned. One fun thing that we wanted to throw out was, hosting a lip syncing contest.
Yeah. So probably win those. Okay, cool. And also
awesome.
We know spring brings golf. And I know, Kara, you have some thoughts on the golf.
Absolutely. Yep. So golf is a huge theme in events in general and in organizations fundraising in general. It's usually pretty easy, fun. It's a way to involve kind of the men demographic into your organization as well. So a couple of quick tips for success is that one thing to think about is making sure that you know what's going on in your area. So you don't want to compete with other golf events that are actually transpiring during that time as well. So it may be something that maybe May doesn't work well for you. Maybe in October time is good. Also thinking about the time of day. So, weekends, in May can kind of, especially back or schools ending at that time. So thinking about maybe the time of day during the week as well. So a Monday, a Tuesday where it might be easier for people to take off.
Yeah, those are all really great points. And so I think this might be a good spot for us to just kind of stop and be helpful to know, so how many campaigns are you all running throughout the year? So if everyone could just weigh in quickly, either, you're not running any campaigns, 1 to 3, 4 to 10, or more than 10 campaigns throughout the year. And so, while you guys are all weighing in, Megan, if you could tell us, something that you guys are going to be doing for the first time for Hearts of Gold in 2020, like a new campaign maybe that you're adding.
Yeah, so we actually kind of started that this December so we can lead it into 2020. This year was the 25th anniversary of Hearts of Gold, so we did want to leverage that outside of the signature events. That one of them I already mentioned, and then the other two I'll talk about later. But one thing we decided to do was what we called a $25 for 25 years event, and it was a small networking event. We had people on the committee speak. I was one of them, and it really was just getting people interested near the end of the year. Like we said, a lot of giving happens in December, but it really is to get them interested as we go into 2020, because we're hoping everyone is hoping as well. So we were very pleased with the results. We want to make it one of our annual events, and so we're really excited to see what comes in 2020 with that.
Okay, cool. So let's see those poll results. And so, Kara, based on what you're seeing, I know you work with a lot of our GiveSmart clients, so is this kind of the standard amount of events that you would say?
Yeah, this is great. I mean, usually I would say we see probably an average is the 1 to 3 is usually aligns with exactly what we see throughout kind of utilizing GiveSmart platform. The 4 to 10, great work, guys. That's awesome. It's so delighting to see how many of you are really diving really deep into the fundraising campaigns and especially surrounding events as well. Great job.
Okay, cool. So moving on, this is just something that we wanted to share that we kind of pulled some of our GiveSmart data and found. Hey, by the way, we found that organizations that are running 2 events raise on average 50% more than organizations that are just running 1 event. So if you are maybe one of the organizations on the call today that runs just 1 campaign, maybe consider adding, another easy, quick online something. We could definitely talk about that further offline at another time, but consider adding something else to increase your fundraising. And so next we're going to move into summer. So the summer months often feel like a slowdown. Maybe people go out of town or they're not around as much, but people actually are quite willing to get out and about and active when the weather is nice. So this is a good time to kind of utilize those community come together outside focused events that we might see in June. I'll turn it to Kara.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kelsey. So yeah, June, summer has started. People are ready to get outside. They've been cooped up. So they are really ready to enjoy the summertime. One thing that I'm sure you all probably are really aware of are 5Ks. So that's a great way to engage donors in some outdoor fun. However, sometimes you can be a little bit oversaturated. So thinking outside the box of being able to host an activity outside is great. So one thing that, here in Chicago, that I know that one of our organizations does is a skyscraper stairway run. So, get people involved in more of a 5K, but it's kind of a twist. So thinking about that. Also with June, thinking about garage sales. I know that sounds kind of weird, but having a community garage sale or an organization garage sale where all of your donations go back to your organization is a great way to involve the community and your donors, right? So everybody has done their spring cleaning. They're ready to get out all of the stuff out of their house. Offering that as a option for them to kind of bring it by, maybe renting a church parking lot or, your organization's parking lot, and actually making it fun too. So you could maybe get a band, maybe have some food trucks, and really making sure that the community is engaged.
Yeah, that is a really great idea as well, and probably not something that is commonly thought of, but a great way for everybody to come together and have kind of a joint effort and sort of make your own flea market, I suppose. So this slide I wanted to share is from our latest research study, and it's a really great breakdown of entertainment elements by demographic at fundraising events. So, or the types of fundraising events rather. So as you see here where the purple arrow is that some type of sporting competition or run is highly preferred by millennials and also by men. So if you're looking to either increase millennial or male supporters, or perhaps that's a big portion of your donor base, these are definitely great events to consider hosting. And Kara, Megan, is there anything else from this data that jumps out to you guys here?
One thing that I was really surprised and actually happy to see was the 78% of millennials who want something like a game or a raffle. We had a raffle at the event that I mentioned that we hosted for the first time in December, and we really got a lot of success from that. And I was kind of nervous because most of our network in that was millennials, and I didn't know if they would really take to it. So I'm glad to see that the numbers line up with what I experienced in December.
Yeah, that's really great. Data shows what is happening. And so, okay, moving along through July, Kara, beach barbecues, thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. So next to holidays, July is my favorite time of year because a lot of that is thinking of, I get to go to the beach. So thinking of that, keeping that in mind, maybe some beach themes, thinking barbecue, fish fries, maybe a chef competition or food truck competition, anything that's kind of surrounded with, friends. Music is another one, music outside. So thinking, maybe you could host the Battle of the Bands in a park or a parking lot, maybe even on the beach or a vineyard that's close by to your organization. My other favorite thing to do is a pool party. So, I know one example that I'd love to give that I thought was so cool of one of our organizations, their local community pool. They rent that out for the night, and then they have a movie night and they show Jaws. So everybody gets in their inner tubes in the water and they watch Jaws on the big screen. And I think that was just a cool way. Yeah, a cool way to engage, the community and donors, and something kind of fun and different in July.
Yeah, totally. And so, Megan, I know that with Hearts of Gold with you guys, August is big for your back to school events.
Yeah, so I mentioned that briefly. The Run Walk for Kids that we do in April actually fundraises for this event. So this event will mention that we need maybe more donations, but it's not our big fundraising push since we did that back in April. But all of the money that we raised goes to buying school supplies and backpacks for the kids in the shelter system. And so we actually shut a block down in the Flatiron district of Manhattan, and all of the kids and their moms come and they go down an assembly line and get to pick from brand new school supplies. and pack their own backpack. So it's really special. It's really fun. This is me and a few other people who came to volunteer that day. You can see us with our HOG shirts, which is the abbreviation for Hearts of Gold. So other summer events, this is a great one. We're all outside, we're all sweating all together, helping these kids get ready for school. Other ideas, though, you can do kind of one-off sign-up parties. I know that can be big a lot with the school systems since we're getting ready for back to school. Anything kind of posted online like that. And so that way you can just send people right to a website. Maybe you're not actually hosting a physical event, but then you can do something like an evening cruise or a bonfire party at a winery, really get people back into the spirit as we get into the busy fall. You can also do something like a used book sale, which you can also host outside.
And that kind of goes in line with the back to school theme sort of as well. And so, of course, as we go into the fall, it's a huge time, for the bigger galas and bigger fundraising events. But Kara, what are your thoughts on pulling people back in and getting their attention as the summer kind of comes to a close?
Yeah, so September is a great month to think about, continuing that, don't let summer end kind of theme, right? So thinking about maybe investing in a booth or at your local flea market or farmer's market. These are great ways to, or even street fairs, right? So this is a great way to spread your mission and also, reach out to the community, right? So even making your booth different is also a great way by maybe hosting a game or, offering a craft for kids or for adults. This will keep your donors engaged more at your booth and making them learn more about your mission. Also, again, I know Megan kind of touched on this too, the back to school parties. So I know that there's those sign up parties. I know we work with a lot of schools in the area that have, parents hosting parties that people can actually sign up to go to. And so they'll host, cover the food and beverages, and then all of the money raised to actually be able to go to those parties goes back to your organization. So I always thought that was kind of a cool way to engage, donors as well as, seeing, those school activities going as well. Also, so kind of moving into October, it's kind of the start of the holidays. So starting to feel a little bit more like fall, which, means a little bit more of people getting excited for the holidays. So thinking about October, think about context, right? So think about what goes on in October. Flag football, soccer, even basketball, things like that you can really engage, your donors and community in these various contests. Also thinking about a chili cook-off. That's another way that you can really engage, those foodies in your community as well. And then finally, thinking about raffles. So, and maybe offering some things that are not necessarily event-centric or even people to actually come to a venue for. There's a lot of ways that you could do something very simple of offering an online raffle to your next signature event. That engages your community, gets people excited. Sporting tickets, if you get sporting tickets donated, throw it up and just get it on the website and get that going from a raffle standpoint would be great.
Yeah, for sure. And so kind of moving into, November is the biggest month for galas. Megan, if you want to.
Yeah, so Hearts of Gold, we have our big gala event every November, always within the first week of November. And we think that works really well since obviously Thanksgiving is near the end of the month. It's really nice to get people in the busy fall since I feel like people are really happy to attend events, they're excited to give. But then as we get closer to the end of the month, we put our focus more on the Thanksgiving giving season. And so we have, a food drive. We also have a community volunteer day around Thanksgiving, and that is something that a lot of organizations do to really capitalize on the giving mood that people are getting into by the end of the year. Another thing to consider is as it's getting colder or as kids are getting closer to the holiday season, you could have some sort of event like a board game tournament. You can also find a way, like Kara was talking about, a raffle. You can do a raffle related to different games for kids or something to keep them kind of inside but then still engaged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are all really great ideas. Like we said, the chat is open, so if anything has come to mind for any of you throughout this, ping it in there, and then we can share it with everyone. So that's kind of it in terms of like the monthly breakdown. But before we go, I wanted to just pause for some questions. We've already had a few come through the chat, which is great. So I just kind of want to kick off the first one about, if we're having all of these events, how do we get people to these additional events and what is the best way to keep people interested?
Yeah, so I can talk about that first, and then Kara, you can jump.
Oh, good. Yeah, Megan.
Oh.
Great. No,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, so with Hearts of Gold, as I mentioned, we started doing a new event in December. We were a little bit hesitant about it since it was more of the associate committee that planned it compared to the internal Hearts of Gold team. Of course, we did it together. But one thing that we realized is we do want to leverage different groups of our donor base with these different events. And so our goal for the 25 for 25 event was really to just have maybe 100 people maximum that were interested in the event to register, and then maybe expecting 50 to 60 of them to actually attend the event. And we decided that kind of the millennial age group, the younger age group donor base that cannot give as much money at a time, they're the ones that we wanted to target for that event. Whereas the gala, that's really the older donors, ones who've been involved with Hearts of Gold since the beginning, the ones who they plan to come to the signature event and then really make their biggest donations right in that night. You know, we maybe wouldn't even reach out to them about this 25 for 25 event. And so we decided that, you know, picking the communication and the amount that we do it is really important to make sure there isn't donor fatigue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. And thanks, Megan. We had another question come through asking a bit more about the 25 for 25 event. And so that was, yeah, thanks for clarifying that. And we can follow up as well with that person if you want to even further details kind of about what they did with their raffle as well. And so another question for you, Kara. If you are running 2 events, are they taking into account the time that it takes to run?
You mean is that in reference to the 50% the staff time that's accounted for? I'd assume so.
Sorry, that was in reference to the statistic about saying that someone who runs an additional event is raising 50% more. And so that is kind of just in terms of by running a second event, you know, raising 50% more of your funds and kind of like looking more of taking into account like the breakdown of the time.
Got it. Yeah, and I think, you know, with that regard, it's probably not taking into consideration of how much time and effort is put into the event, but it depends on maybe you could get, you know, if you don't have the bandwidth to add a second event, thinking about maybe bringing in a volunteer or even a part-time employee to help with that, to maybe offset some of that, you know, the extra work that would account for that would probably be something that I would definitely recommend. So if there is, you know, maybe bringing in a volunteer, something like that to be able, if you don't have the bandwidth to run that second event, because as you can see, raising 50% more, it's could be a game changer for your organization.
Totally. Thank you, Kara. And so, okay, we have another one. What if we don't have the budget or staff to manage all of these events? Megan?
Yeah, so I can speak to my experience with Hearts of Gold. I'm involved on a volunteer basis, and so is the entire associate committee. And so we have about 15 people on the associate committee, but like I mentioned, there's only 4 full-time Hearts of Gold employees, and that includes the founder and CEO. So it is something that we always like to keep in mind. We never want to plan an event for the associate committee that then puts a lot of strain on the internal staff at Hearts of Gold. And so it's something that we always talk about with budget and staffing. For the 25 for 25 event, like I mentioned, we actually used a space that we had for free, and then we got donations for wine and food. So we didn't even have to put any money down. And so we just made it a very small event. We didn't have super high expectations of it, and I think we're all very pleased with how it went because we did use a site where people could give if they wanted to, even if they weren't able to attend. And then we just asked the associate committee to be volunteers. And so that's one thing we're trying to leverage, is trying to find more volunteers. That way next year when we go into 2020, we feel even more confident with the people we have that we can lean on in times that the Hearts of Gold staff cannot actually manage it internally.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Kara, do you have anything to add to that?
Yep, actually, yeah, I do. So one thing just to kind of keep in mind too, I think, you know, we've kind of been a little bit more event-centric on this webinar. However, thinking also like, you know, campaigns can mean other things than just hosting an event. So like I mentioned before, you know, having a raffle or something like that that maybe would be able to garner, you know, bringing in donors and donor engagement, but it doesn't take a ton of work. Thinking about ways like that, I think will really benefit you too when you're thinking a little bit outside of the box. It doesn't always mean it has to host an event or it needs to put hours of work into something. Thinking about that way of maybe smaller things that you can do throughout the year that engage your donors that maybe don't take up a lot of time.
Yeah, totally. And so we had another question come through that saying, could you please tell us more about online raffles? So I don't know if you wanted to kind of expand maybe some ideas, some ideas of what an online raffle could be.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of through the presentation, I kind of mentioned, it could be anything from, if you get sporting tickets donated or, any sort of idea that you have, or maybe something that it doesn't even have to be something that you have to go out and purchase or have to be donated. Like I said, raffling 2 tickets off to a signature event, lunch with your CEO, painting with the kids. I know a lot of our corporate sponsors that are part of organizations are always looking for activities, to do with community activities, right? So that further their mission of giving back. So thinking about ways that maybe you could raffle off an experience of, painting a building or something like that would be able to engage donors in a different aspect.
Yeah, cool. And okay, so the next question is, when are the best times of year to reach out to corporations for sponsorships and in-kind donations?
So I found with Hearts of Gold, we, like I mentioned, we asked for donations with the last event that we hosted, and it is kind of a year-long situation that's top of mind for a lot of us because we do have events throughout the year. I found that it's more successful as we lead, just for us personally, it's been more successful as we're getting into the fall. We actually found a lot more responses when we asked for that, reaching out to corporations specifically for in-kind donations in September and October. I think the summer can be kind of hard because people are on vacation, they may not get back to you. So I found that, September and October really worked for us, and I can imagine something similar to like maybe February, March, April would be another good time because people kind of have their heads down working. There's not as many vacations going on. People usually are in the office and maybe can dedicate more of the time to getting back to your organization about that.
Yeah. Cool. And so the next question is, if we don't have a strong volunteer or donor base, how do you recommend promoting / marketing these events? What are the best strategies to build these audiences?
I can take that one. So I think, thinking about, thinking a little bit outside of the box, right? So utilizing social media, I think is huge, right? So it doesn't really cost a lot, something that can really be blasted out to a lot of different communities and community members. Also, consider hosting, a networking event to where people in the community, and it may be an investment that you decide that you would like to make on and making it free, right? So hosting a cocktail hour for the young associate board members that maybe you already have for them to bring their friends to learn about your organization. So when you don't have a lot of donors, utilizing the donors that you do have, to kind of push out your messaging, and also, investing in those kind of cultivation events as well.
Cool. And okay, so the next question, this is great. We have a lot of questions coming in, so I want to try to keep moving here. Is there a good platform out there for a gear drive online? Often the person's name is displayed. What about if the specific item is also displayed for a gear drive event? So just again, is there a good platform out there for a gear drive online?
So I can say for Hearts.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, Kelsey?
Oh yeah.
Sorry. I'll repeat it. I think Megan's going to take it. But is there a good platform out there for a gear drive online? Often the person's name is what is displayed. What about if the specific item is displayed? And again, this is for a gear drive event.
So for Hearts of Gold, we actually use GiveSmart. Yeah, thanks, Kara. We actually use GiveSmart, which is how I know Kelsey and Kara, obviously, and why they asked me to help with the webinar, which is wonderful. But we've been using GiveSmart, and so we used it for the gala, for our 25 for 25 event, and for the run walk. And for the most recent event that we did, we had the raffle items posted online. I'm not sure exactly what Gear Drive might mean or in what sense you're using it, but just for us personally, we did have the raffles online, and then we did have it where you can actually see people's names, I believe. And so that was something kind of exciting. It really encouraged people to use the site and to keep giving like directly on their phones. And then we've also used it, I think you saw in the presentation, we were wearing the I Love Hog shirts. And so we used that actually to sell merchandise at our gala event. And so that was actually really helpful for us. And so not just, silent auction items, but we also had the merchandise online that people could purchase at any time on the website.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for the Give Smart shout out. But moving on. So what is the best way to get our organization considered by supporters for employee giving?
So for Hearts of Gold specifically, the best thing that's worked for us, and this kind of goes into growing your donor base and your volunteer base, is really just leveraging the relationships that already exist and making sure people are kind of looped into the mission. So the associate committee started with 2 people, and one of them was the founder's son who started it. And it's slowly grown, like I said, to 15 people. Hearts of Gold has been around for 25 years, so it's taken a bit of time to get us to this point. But the best part has been just, kind of in passing, or people that have some sort of interest in getting more involved, or they have a relationship. For us, we have a relationship with Google, and so we're able to leverage their corporate match, which is really, really awesome. But that really just came from me knowing someone who happened to work there, talking to them about Hearts of Gold, and then kind of growing it into a relationship like that.
Yeah, definitely relationships and talking are so important. And so, Kara, a question for you. Should your event always be mission-centered, or should it be about creating something people want to attend?
I think that's a great question. I think the best events that I have been to and the best events that I've been a part of, they kind of do both, right? So it's an event that you want to go to that's sprinkled with your mission. So I think that, and I believe in some of our polls and things like that we've created in the past, what we're seeing kind of the trend is that people want to go to a fun event, but really they want to learn about what you do too, right? So I think that being able to have not necessarily mission centric to where it's all about the mission and it's just kind of boring and nobody really wants to go to it. But if you make it really fun and you sprinkle your mission in there in different areas, I think is kind of the perfect mixture, because you don't want to host an event where nobody knows who's going to it and why you're there, right? So I think keeping the mission as part of your event, maybe not, it doesn't necessarily have to be right there in your face, but you definitely want to talk about what you're doing, and definitely want to show, kind of the impact. I think that people want to learn, what your mission is and the impact that you have on the community, but I don't think you necessarily have to have it being, kind of in your face the entire event.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we just have time, I think, for 3 more questions. So, we'll do 3 more. The next one is, any recommendations for securing donated space, food, drink, etc., for a fundraising event, or other ways to reduce event costs?
Yeah, so I can speak specifically for the 25 for 25 event, which I had much more of a hand in putting together, which is why I can speak so much about it, especially. But for us, we got very lucky with the donated space. It was a relationship. Our founder actually has a boutique in the Flatiron area of Manhattan, so we were able to use that space. But for food and drink, what we did is we actually went, a few associate committee members actually visited restaurants in the area and said, Hearts of Gold is an organization that's literally 3 blocks away from you, or you can say, within your same town or within your same county or city, whatever you think might work best, depending on where you are located. And we just said, we're helping people directly in our community, helping people in this way, and we'd love to have some sort of relationship with you moving forward. So really to try to leverage the community aspect of it, we think that has been really successful for us with, why wouldn't they want to help someone in their community when they can, especially with a lot of organizations or a lot of restaurants that are maybe throwing away a lot of food and drink, or especially food at the end of the night. And so kind of stopping by in person, I think, can make a really great impact. But if not, figuring out, an email address or contact for someone specifically to really start building that relationship.
Yeah, I think what you said is like just when you kind of quantify it to be like we're 3 blocks away, we're going to be having it at the end of the day. So instead of tossing all of these pastries, do you mind if we take them? And I think that really goes much further than you might think. So
Kelsey, one thing.
Yeah.
So Kelsey, one thing on that too. I believe the July webinar also touched on how to garner more corporate donations and in-kind sponsorship. So I believe
it did,
that out if anybody wants more information on that as well.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Kara. And so the next question, which events seem to give the biggest bang for the buck? Good outcomes, but not hugely, good outcomes, but not a huge amount of effort to put in. So again, which kind of events seem to give the biggest bang for the buck?
I think, it depends on how you look at it, right? So I think that for future and garnering, donors for the future, I think offering, networking events or smaller events that you can really cultivate your donors in kind of a one-on-one experience where they're learning about your mission in kind of a fun way. But I also think, the smaller things that you can do where it's not like you don't need to have a huge gala with 500 people either, right? So I think, that those usually tend to bring in more just from a historical standpoint. Usually, if you have a gala, it's a lot of work though too, right? So, and there's a lot of investment that goes with that and a lot of rewards. So I think definitely, kind of from the, I believe from the polls from earlier as well, I do think that like having a signature event to kind of is always a great idea. I think people like that. I think they like to be, kind of cultivated in that way. People like to, kind of get out for the night and learn about your mission, dance a little bit, have a couple cocktails. So I do think the signature event is awesome, but I do think there's smaller ways to, like I mentioned before, to kind of keep that community that don't cost a lot. But also, kind of the return is still really great as well. One thing I would say too is like engaging millennials is huge. And I think that that's something that I think, nonprofits tend to focus a lot on those bigger donors that can give those, that have maybe bigger bank accounts, that can give bigger checks. But really focusing on millennials, especially, kind of at that younger age or getting them involved in an organization will be, I think that pays for itself tenfold because you have somebody that's going to donate to you for life, right? So if you get them in at, 25, 26, 27, 30, you're already cultivating them to where when they are CEOs of corporations, you're going to have a piece of their heart, right? So I do think that that's one thing that if I had a recommendation is keeping millennials engaged for sure.
Yeah, and I can definitely speak directly from experience since our associate committee is made up of millennials. And like I said, we've really grown within the past few years. So one thing we've actually done this year that I haven't mentioned yet is we actually have a few people that just know of someone who knows someone who works at a bar that's close by. And then we've gotten the contact information and decided to host a happy hour where 10% of the profits of that night actually go directly to Hearts of Gold. So we're not paying for the space or for the food or for the drinks, but we are getting a percentage. And, we've brought in maybe $1,000 total from one of the nights. That was a bigger night, but then one, was $400, $500. That's not a lot, but we want to scale these events so that way we can have them like once every other month instead of just twice a year. And like I said, that really came from relationship building with maybe just one person didn't even realize that they knew someone who worked at a restaurant. And then suddenly, because you asked them, they realize that they can actually help with that.
Yeah, and that's no effort on your end. And
exactly.
It adds up as well.
And for the associate committee too, it was really nice to empower the associate committee members when they had the time to really take over one of those events. So it wasn't specifically me or my co-chair that had to do anything with it. They actually decided to reach out to them specifically, get it all together, and then we had someone create a graphic to share on social media, and in that way they were leveraging those networks. And so for us, an Instagram post is huge. That's what we create our graphics to be postable on an Instagram story. And then one thing that we do to kind of make it easy for the millennial network, I would say, to give is we actually encourage people to Venmo us directly. So when I was posting about the Run Walk for Kids, I asked people to just Venmo me as much as they could. And I really phrased it as, if you can give $50, if you can give 20, if you can give 10, any little bit matters. And I immediately got probably 7 Venmos right after I sent the email out to some of my friends, then even got more after I posted it to Instagram. And these were just my close friends, but it's so easy for them to open up the app and Venmo it to me. And then I just sent it to Hearts of Gold in their name.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I think we're going to wrap up now. We just have 1 minute to go. Thank you, everyone, if you have submitted questions. And I know we didn't quite get to all of them, but we're going to round up the rest of them, and we'll send out an email, next week or so with a blog that will answer all of your questions. And so just a quick, if you want to get ahead for 2020, our next webinar is going to be on January 21st, and we will send out more information with that after this. But I just want to say huge thanks to Kara and Megan for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.